The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what secrets it held. In the year 2347, they finally knew the answer. The universe was full of life. Hundreds of alien species lived among the stars. Great empires rose and fell across the galaxy, and humanity was nothing but a small, weak newcomer in this vast cosmic ocean. The Galactic Concord was an alliance of dozens of alien species. They welcomed humanity with polite smiles and empty words. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Cute, perhaps, but not important. Earth had only been part of galactic society for 50 years. In cosmic terms, that was less than a blink of an eye. But there was one empire that did not smile at humanity. The Galactic Imperium, ruled by the powerful Veltari species, saw humans as insects. The Veltari were tall, elegant beings with silver skin and cold purple eyes. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had enslaved entire species. And they believed with absolute certainty that they were the superior race in the universe. High Sovereign Kalthos ruled the Imperium from his golden throne on the planet Velthos. He was ancient, cruel, and patient. For years, he watched humanity spread across their small corner of space. He watched them build colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. He watched them reach for the stars with hope in their hearts. And he decided that this hope needed to be crushed. The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth, every communication device, every holographic display suddenly showed the same image. The face of High Sovereign Kalthos stared down at 12 billion human beings. People of Earth, his voice was smooth and cold like ice. Your existence has been tolerated long enough. The Galactic Imperium demands your complete and unconditional surrender. You will become servants of our empire. Your resources will belong to us. Your children will work in our mines. This is not a negotiation. You have one day to accept. The United Earth Council met within the hour. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals gathered in Geneva. They argued. They shouted. They debated. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not bow. They sent their response to the Imperium with 3 simple words. We refuse you. High Sovereign Kalthos smiled when he received the message. He had hoped they would refuse. Now he could teach the entire galaxy a lesson they would never forget. 3 days later, the sky above Earth turned dark. Thousands of Imperium warships blocked out the sun. They were massive vessels, each one larger than a city. Their weapons were charged and ready. And every single camera, every satellite, every communication device in the galaxy was broadcasting what happened next. The order came from Kalthos himself. Begin the cleansing. Let the galaxy watch. Fire rained from the sky. Beams of pure energy struck the Earth's surface with the force of nuclear weapons. New York vanished in a flash of light. Tokyo burned. London crumbled. Mumbai, Cairo, Sao Paulo, Sydney. One by one, the great cities of humanity were erased from existence. The attack lasted 72 hours. For 3 days and 3 nights, the Imperium ships circled the planet like vultures. They targeted every population center, every military base, every place where humans gathered. And through it all, the galaxy watched. The broadcast was mandatory in Imperium space. Every enslaved species, every conquered world, was forced to see what happened to those who defied the High Sovereign. 10 billion people died. 10 billion mothers, fathers, children, and grandparents. 10 billion dreams ended. 10 billion futures were stolen. The oceans boiled. The forests burned. The air itself became poison. Earth, the blue jewel of the solar system, became a scarred and blackened tomb. Admiral Helena Vance watched from a military bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps. She was 42 years old, a decorated officer with 30 years of service. She had a husband named Thomas and two daughters, Emma and Sophie. They lived in a small house near the coast of Spain. She watched on her screen as Spain disappeared under a wall of fire. Something broke inside Helena that day. Something human and soft was replaced by something hard and cold as steel. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply watched until the very end, burning every image into her memory. Across the solar system, 2 billion humans survived. They were scattered on Mars colonies, lunar bases, space stations, and ships that happened to be away from Earth. They watched the same broadcast. They felt the same horror. And in their hearts, something changed forever. The Galactic Concord sent messages of condolence. "We are deeply sorry for your loss," the alien diplomat said. "But the Imperium is too powerful. There is nothing we can do." They expected humanity to accept this. They expected the survivors to scatter and fade away, becoming refugees begging for scraps on alien stations. They did not understand humans at all. Director Marcus Cole was the head of a secret military project called Prometheus. He was a genius scientist who had spent 20 years studying alien technology. His laboratory was hidden in an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Imperium did not know it existed. When the attack began, he sealed the facility and waited. Now, as the fires on Earth still burned, he received a message from Admiral Vance. It contained only 3 words. Project Prometheus continues. On Mars, the surviving leaders of humanity gathered in an underground city. They were broken, grieving, and filled with rage. Admiral Vance stood before them, her face like stone. "They wanted us to die," she said. "They wanted the galaxy to watch us die and learn to fear. They think we are finished. They think we will scatter and disappear. They are wrong." She pressed a button and a map of the galaxy appeared on the screen behind her. "We will hide. We will rebuild. We will let them forget us. And when they have forgotten, when they think we are nothing but a bad memory, we will return. We will make them pay for every single life they took. And the galaxy will watch again. But this time, they will watch the Imperium burn." A single encrypted message went out that night to every surviving human settlement. The message spread through hidden channels, whispered from person to person, passed like a sacred promise from one generation to the next. Remember, rebuild, return. And in the darkness of space, humanity began to plan its revenge. 15 years passed like a slow, dark dream. The galaxy moved on. New wars were fought. New treaties were signed. New scandals filled the news channels of 100 worlds. And humanity was forgotten. This was exactly what the survivors wanted. The Imperium believed they had broken humanity forever. Their spies reported that human refugees wandered from station to station, begging for work. Human ships were old and falling apart. Human colonies were poor and struggling. The proud species that once reached for the stars was now nothing but scattered dust. But the spies only saw what humanity wanted them to see. Deep in the Oort cloud, far beyond the edge of the solar system, a hidden city floated in the darkness. It had no name. The survivors simply called it the Forge. Here, in secret shipyards carved into ancient asteroids, humanity built its revenge. Admiral Helena Vance commanded the military forces of what they called the Remnant. In 15 years, she had transformed from a grieving widow into something else entirely. Her hair had turned gray. Deep lines marked her face, but her eyes burned with a cold fire that never went out. She slept 4 hours a night and spent the rest planning, training, and preparing. Under her command, soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat. Pilots learned to fly in perfect silence. Special forces practiced infiltration techniques on mock Imperium ships. Every single person in the remnant had lost someone on Earth. Every single person carried the same burning purpose in their heart. Director Marcus Cole worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. Project Prometheus had become his entire life. He had not seen sunlight in years. His hair was wild, his clothes were wrinkled, and he often forgot to eat. But his mind was sharper than ever. The project had started with a simple question. How did the Imperium become so powerful? Cole studied captured Imperium technology, broken pieces of their ships, fragments of their weapons. He learned their secrets. And then he improved them. The Velthari think they are geniuses, Cole told his team one night. They are wrong. They found these technologies by accident in ancient ruins left by species that died millions of years ago. They never truly understood how any of it worked. They just copied what they found. He held up a small device that glowed with soft blue light. We understand it now, and we have made it better. Project Prometheus created weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Ships that could move faster than sensors could track. Shields that could absorb any attack. Guns that could punch through Imperium armor like paper. Every piece of technology was tested 1,000 times. Every weapon was perfect. But weapons alone would not win this war. Humanity needed information. They needed all eyes. They needed to know everything about their enemy. And so the network was born. Human agents spread across the galaxy like invisible ghosts. They took jobs on alien space stations. They worked in Imperium factories. They became servants in the houses of powerful Velthari nobles. They listened. They watched. They learned. And every piece of information flowed back to the remnant through hidden channels. A young woman named Yuki Tanaka worked as a cleaning lady in the Imperium's main shipyard for 3 years. She mapped every security system, every patrol route, every weakness in their defenses. When she finally escaped, she brought enough data to fill 1,000 computers. A man named David Okonkwo posed as a refugee on a neutral station for 5 years. He made friends with alien merchants, criminals, and smugglers. He learned which species hated the Imperium, which ones could be trusted, and which ones would sell their own mothers for profit. Slowly, carefully, the remnant built a web of information that covered the entire galaxy. And then, in the 12th year, the message came. The Cathari were an insectoid species with 6 arms and compound eyes that saw in every direction. The Imperium had enslaved them 200 years ago. They worked in the most dangerous mines on the most hostile worlds. Millions of them died every year. The Imperium considered them expendable. But the Cathari were patient. And they remembered everything. A Cathari elder named Chitkara sent a secret message to the remnant. "We have watched you," the message said. "We have seen your ships in the shadows. We have noticed your agents in the corners. We know you are not broken. We want to help." Admiral Vance met with Chitkara on a dead moon at the edge of Imperium space. The insectoid was old, with cracks in his shell and cloudy eyes. But his mind was sharp. "Why help us?" Vance asked. "Your people have suffered for 200 years. Why risk everything now?" Chitkara made a sound that might have been laughter. "Because you are different, human. Other species see the Imperium and feel fear. You see the Imperium and feel rage. We have waited 200 years for someone to share our rage. The Cathari gave humanity everything. Fleet positions, supply routes, the location of every Imperium shipyard, the codes to their communication systems, and most importantly, the security weaknesses of Velthos itself, the Imperium homeworld. Other species soon followed. The Monkai, reptilian warriors who had been conquered a century ago. The Eothari, plant-like beings whose forest the Imperium had burned. The Khazari, small furry creatures who were forced to work as servants in Velthari homes. One by one, they reached out to humanity. One by one, they joined the growing alliance. In the 15th year, Admiral Vance stood in a massive underground cavern on an unnamed asteroid. Before her stood 500,000 soldiers in perfect formation. Behind her, visible through a transparent wall, floated 2,000 warships. They were beautiful and terrible, built for one purpose and one purpose only. For 15 years we have hidden, Vance said, her voice echoing through the cavern. For 15 years we have let them believe we were broken. For 15 years we have prepared. Now the time for hiding is over. She looked at the faces before her. Young and old. Men and women. Humans and aliens. All of them carried the same fire in their eyes. They wanted us to die quietly. They wanted the galaxy to forget us. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity does not forget. She raised her fist. And humanity does not forgive. The cavern exploded with a roar that seemed to shake the stars themselves. The soldiers chanted a single word, over and over, louder and louder. Return! 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 And in the darkness of space, 2,000 engines ignited. The ghost fleet of humanity moved toward Imperium space. The forgotten were coming back. And they were coming for blood. Commander Veutan was having a normal night. He stood on the bridge of the Imperium shipyard called Forge 7, watching workers build the newest warships for the glory of the Empire. It was boring work, but safe. Nothing ever happened at Forge 7. It was deep in Imperium territory, far from any enemy. Vartan often fell asleep during his shifts. Tonight, he wished he had stayed awake. The first warning came at exactly midnight. A junior officer frowned at his screen. Commander, I am seeing something strange. Our sensors are detecting ships, but then they disappear. Vartan yawned. Probably just a glitch. Run a diagnostic. Yes, Commander. The officer stopped. His face turned pale. Commander, the ships are back. There are 12 of them. They are right on top of us. The windows of the bridge suddenly lit up with fire. Vertam watched in horror as beams of energy tore through the shipyard shields like they were made of paper. Explosions bloomed across the station. Ships that had taken years to build were destroyed in seconds. Workers screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes. When it was over, Forge 7 was nothing but burning wreckage floating in space. Vortam managed to escape in a small pod. As he drifted away from the destruction, he saw one of the attacking ships pass by his window. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek and dark, it moved through space like a predator hunting in the night. And painted on its side, in letters that seemed to glow with cold fire, was a single word: Remnant. Across Imperium space, 11 other shipyards burned that same night. The attacks happened at exactly the same moment, coordinated across thousands of light years. In a single night, humanity destroyed nearly half of the Imperium's shipbuilding capacity, and no one knew who had done it. High Sovereign Kalthus received the reports in his throne room. His advisors were terrified. 12 shipyards destroyed. Thousands of workers dead. Billions in resources lost. And the attackers had vanished without a trace. Find them, Kalthus ordered, his voice deadly quiet. Find them and bring me their heads. But the Imperium could not find what it could not see. The human ships were ghosts. They appeared from nowhere, struck with terrible force, and disappeared before anyone could respond. Imperium patrols searched every corner of space. They found nothing. Then the broadcast began. It started on a busy market planet called Kethra Prime, Every screen, every holographic display, every communication device suddenly showed the same image. It was old footage, 15 years old, showing Imperium ships bombarding Earth. Cities burned. People died. The destruction played for 10 minutes without sound. Then a new image appeared. A human woman with gray hair and cold eyes stared into the camera. She spoke 3 words. "We remember." The screen went dark. Panic spread through Imperium space like wildfire. The humans were supposed to be dead. The humans were supposed to be broken. But now human ghosts were destroying shipyards and broadcasting messages across the Empire. Rumors spread faster than light. Some said humanity had built a secret army. Others said they had discovered ancient alien weapons. A few whispered that the spirits of the dead had returned for revenge. Admiral Vance watched the chaos from her command ship with grim satisfaction. The psychological warfare was working. The Imperium was afraid, and fear made them stupid. "Phase 2, she ordered. "Hit their supply lines." The next 3 months were a nightmare for the Imperium. Human strike forces appeared without warning and destroyed supply convoys. Food shipments vanished. Fuel depots exploded. Communication relays went silent. The great machine of the Imperium began to starve. And everywhere they struck, they left the same message. We remember. But humanity was not fighting alone. The Cathari began sabotaging Imperium factories from within. The Markai warriors launched raids on remote military outposts. The Ilthari provided safe hiding places in their hidden forest worlds. The coalition grew stronger every day. On the planet Desser, a human strike team freed 10,000 Cathari slaves from a mining facility. The insectoids had never seen humans before. They expected monsters from the stories the Imperium told. Instead, they found soldiers who shared their food and medics who treated their wounds. "Why do you help us?" one Cathari asked a young human soldier. The soldier, a woman named Private Chun, looked at him with tired eyes. "Because 15 years ago, we needed help and no one came. We will not let that happen to anyone else." The Cathari passed this story to others. The story spread from planet to planet, from species to species. Humanity was not just fighting for revenge. They were fighting for everyone the Imperium had crushed. And that made them heroes. High Sovereign Kelthos refused to believe the truth. His advisors told him that humans were behind the attacks. He called them fools and had 3 of them executed. "The humans are vermin," he declared. "Vermin cannot build fleets. Vermin cannot fight wars. This is a trick by our enemies in the Concord. Find the real attackers." His blindness cost him dearly. Admiral Talvex was one of the best commanders in the Imperium fleet. He was hunting for the ghost ships when he found them, or rather, they found him. His patrol of 20 warships suddenly discovered they were surrounded by 40 human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. Talvex opened a communication channel. "This is Admiral Talvex of the Galactic Imperium. Identify yourselves and surrender. You are outmatched." A human face appeared on his screen. It was a woman with gray hair and eyes like frozen steel. "I am Admiral Helena Vance of the Human Remnant. You killed my husband and daughters 15 years ago. You burned my world and murdered my people. And you dare to tell me I am outmatched?" Talvex felt fear for the first time in his long career. You are supposed to be extinct." Vance smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "We got better." The battle lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, 19 Imperium ships were destroyed. Talvex survived in an escape pod, just like Vertan before him. As he drifted through the wreckage of his fleet, he heard Vance's voice one last time. "Go back to your master. Tell him what you saw here today. Tell him the humans send their regards. Tell him we are coming for him next." Talvex delivered the message personally. For the first time in 50 years, he saw fear in the eyes of High Sovereign Kelthos. The Galactic Concord watched these events with growing amazement. The species they had dismissed as weak refugees were now tearing apart the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Alien diplomats sent careful messages to the remnant, asking about possible alliances. They received the same answer every time. You had your chance to help us 15 years ago. You chose to do nothing. Now stand aside and watch. This is our war. And across 1,000 worlds, 1,000 species did exactly that. They watched as the ghosts of humanity rose from the ashes of their destroyed world. They watched as the hunters became the hunted. And they began to understand a simple truth. Humanity was not a species to be pitied. Humanity was a species to be feared. The time for shadows was over. Humanity stepped into the light, and the galaxy trembled. From hidden bases across the stars, human fleets emerged like wolves from the darkness. The remnant revealed its true strength, not the scattered refugees. The Imperium believed them to be but a mighty war machine built on 15 years of rage and sacrifice. 2,000 warships, 500,000 soldiers, and allies from a dozen species who had suffered under Imperium rule. High Sovereign Kelthos finally understood the danger he faced. He called every admiral, every general, every ship in his empire to defend against the human threat. The largest fleet in Imperium history gathered at Karth Prime, a fortress world near the center of their territory. 3,000 warships, 1,000,000 soldiers. The pride of the Velthari species. Crush them, Kelthos commanded. Show the galaxy that no one defies the Imperium. Admiral Vance received the intelligence about the Imperium fleet and smiled. They want a straight fight, she said to her officers. They think numbers will save them. Let us teach them otherwise. The Battle of Karth Prime would be remembered for 1,000 years. The Imperium fleet waited in perfect formation, confident in their superior numbers. They had won 100 battles with the same strategy: overwhelming force, superior technology, absolute discipline. No enemy had ever broken their lines. Then the human fleet arrived. Director Cole had spent 15 years perfecting Project Prometheus. Now the galaxy would see what human innovation could create. The human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible, dodging Imperium weapons with grace and speed. Their shields absorbed attacks that should have destroyed them. Their guns fired beams of energy that passed through Imperium armor like it did not exist. The Imperium admirals watched in horror as their carefully planned formations fell apart. Ships that had never known defeat exploded one after another. Communications filled with screaming voices calling for help that would never come. Admiral Vance commanded from the bridge of her flagship, the Remembrance. She watched the battle with cold satisfaction. Every destroyed Imperium ship was a payment on a debt 15 years old. Every explosion was a small piece of justice for the 10 billion who had died. Push forward, she ordered. Show no mercy. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 2,400 Imperium ships were destroyed or captured. The human coalition lost 200. It was the greatest defeat in Imperium history. Karth Prime fell 3 days later, its ground forces surrendering without a fight. And every moment of the battle was broadcast across the galaxy. Just as the Imperium had once broadcast Earth's destruction, now the galaxy watched the Imperium burn. On 100 worlds, enslaved species saw their masters defeated. They saw human soldiers freeing prisoners and providing medical care to the wounded. They saw something they had never seen before: hope. Rebellions erupted across Imperium space. The Kethari rose up in their mining colonies. The Morkai attacked military bases they had been forced to build. The Ilthari reclaimed their forest worlds. The great empire that had seemed unbeatable was crumbling from within. Admiral Vance pushed her forces deeper into Imperium territory. World after world fell to the coalition. World after world fell to the coalition. Some fought and were defeated. Others surrendered peacefully and were treated fairly. The human admiral made sure that every victory was clean. Every occupation was just. But not everyone agreed with her approach. In a council meeting aboard the Remembrance, a Murkai general named the Sec slammed his fist on the table. "Why do we hold back?" he demanded. "The Velthri murdered billions. They enslaved my people for a century. We should burn their worlds as they burned Earth. We should kill every last one of them." Murmurs of agreement came from around the table. The desire for revenge burned hot in many hearts. Admiral Vance stood and faced them all. "I understand your anger. I feel it too. When I close my eyes, I still see my daughters burning. I still hear my husband's last words on the communication channel before the line went dead. There is not a day when I do not dream of making the Velthri pay for what they took from me." She paused, her eyes sweeping the room. "But I did not survive 15 years of hiding just to become what they are. The Imperium ruled through terror and cruelty. They destroyed anyone who was different. If we do the same, we are no better than them. We will have won the war, but lost our souls." Desic growled. "Pretty words. But the dead cannot hear pretty words." "No," Vance agreed. "But the living can. Right now, every species in the galaxy is watching us. They are asking themselves, what kind of victors will the humans be? If we answer with genocide, they will fear us just as they feared the Imperium. But if we answer with justice, with mercy, with strength guided by wisdom, they will respect us. They will trust us. And we will build something better than the Imperium ever could." Director Cole spoke up from his seat. "The Admiral is right. I could build weapons that would destroy Velthos completely. I could create plagues that would kill every Velthri in the galaxy. But I will not. Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Some weapons, once used, change you forever. We must defeat the Imperium without becoming monsters ourselves." The council debated for hours. In the end, Vance's position won. The coalition would fight hard and show no mercy to Imperium military forces. But they would not target civilians. They would not commit genocide. They would prove that humanity was better than those who had tried to destroy them. The war continued for another year. System by system, world by world, the Imperium collapsed. Their allies abandoned them. Their slaves turned against them. Their economy crumbled under the weight of constant attacks and internal rebellion. Finally, the human fleet arrived at Velthos itself. Admiral Vance stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and looked at the Velthri homeworld through the viewing window. It was a beautiful planet with silver oceans and purple forests. Millions of Velthri civilians lived in gleaming cities below. In the great palace at the center of the capital, High Sovereign Kalthos waited. "Admiral," her communications. Officer said, "We are receiving a message from the surface. The High Sovereign wishes to negotiate." Vance almost laughed. Now he wants to talk. After killing 10 billion of our people. After 15 years of hunting us like animals. Now he wants to negotiate. She thought of her husband Thomas. She thought of her daughters Emma and Sophie. She thought of the 10 billion names she had memorized over 15 years. The names of every single person who died in the attack on Earth. Tell him we will accept his surrender. Nothing else. The message came back within minutes. The High Sovereign refuses. He says he would rather die than surrender to vermin. Vance nodded slowly. Then he will get his wish. All ships begin the siege of Velthos. Target military installations only. We are not here to murder civilians. We are here to end a tyrant. The fleet moved forward. The skies of Velthos darkened with human ships. And in his golden palace, High Sovereign Kalthos finally understood the truth he had denied for so long. The species he had tried to exterminate had returned, and they had come for him. The siege of Velos lasted 30 days. It was not meant to destroy, it was meant to suffocate. Human ships blocked every supply route. They shot down every military vessel that tried to escape. They cut off communications with the rest of the dying Imperium. The great Veltari homeworld, which had once ruled 1,000 systems, was now a prisoner in its own sky. Inside the palace, High Sovereign Kalthos watched his empire crumble. Every day brought new reports of defeat. Every hour brought new messages from commanders begging for help that would never come. The proud ruler who had once believed himself invincible now sat alone in his throne room, surrounded by ghosts of his own making. His generals urged him to surrender. His advisors begged him to negotiate. He executed 3 of them for cowardice. "I am the High Sovereign," he told the survivors. "I have ruled for 200 years. I will not bow to insects. I will not surrender to the species I tried to destroy. If this is the end, I will meet it standing." On the 31st day, the assault began. Human dropships fell from the sky like rain. Coalition forces landed on 6 continents simultaneously. Veltari defenders fought bravely, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely demoralized. City after city fell to the advancing troops. Admiral Helena Vance led the assault on the capital personally. She was 60 years old now, her body tired from decades of war. But her will was iron. She had waited 17 years for this moment, 15 years of hiding, 2 years of war. She would see it through to the end. The Imperial Guard made their final stand at the palace gates. They were the best soldiers the Imperium had, chosen from birth and trained for decades. They fought with the desperation of those who have nothing left to lose. It was not enough. Human soldiers pressed forward through halls of gold and marble. They stepped over the bodies of guards who had died defending a tyrant. They pushed through doors that had stood for 1,000 years. And finally, they reached the throne room. Vance entered first, her weapon raised. The room was vast, with ceilings so high they disappeared into darkness. Golden pillars lined the walls. At the far end, on a throne made of pure silver, sat High Sovereign Kalthos. He looked smaller than she had imagined, older. His silver skin had faded to gray. His purple eyes, which had once burned with cruel intelligence, now seemed dim and tired. He wore ceremonial armor that had not seen battle in centuries. "Admiral Vance," he said, his voice still smooth despite everything. "We finally meet. I must admit, you have surprised me. I did not think your species capable of such persistence." Vance walked slowly toward the throne, her soldiers spreading out behind her. "You underestimated us. You all did. The Concord thought we were weak. The Imperium thought we were insects. You were all wrong." Kalthos laughed softly. "Perhaps. But does it matter? You have won your war. You have destroyed my empire. You have hunted me to the end of the galaxy. And what has it cost you? How many of your people died in this crusade? How many more will die rebuilding what I destroyed? Every death is on your hands," Vance said. "Every sacrifice we made was because of what you did 17 years ago. You started this. We are simply finishing it." The High Sovereign leaned forward on his throne. "Then finish it. Kill me. Burn my world. Enslave my people. Show the galaxy that humans are just as savage as I always said you were." Vance stopped walking. She was close enough now to see the challenge in his eyes. He wanted her to kill him. He wanted humans to commit genocide against his people. That way, even in death, he would prove that he had been right all along. Humans would become the new monsters, and his legacy would be justified. She smiled coldly. "No," Kalthos blinked. "No? You do not get to choose how this ends." Vance gestured to her soldiers. Take him alive. He will stand trial before a galactic tribunal. Every species he wronged will witness his judgment. He will spend the rest of his long life in a cell, watching humans and Kethari and Morkai and all the others he despised build a better galaxy without him. She leaned close to the throne. That is a fate worse than death for someone like you, and you deserve every moment of it. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy, just as the destruction of Earth had been broadcast 17 years before. Every surviving recording of Imperium atrocities was presented. Witnesses from a dozen species told their stories. The evidence was overwhelming. High Sovereign Kalthus was found guilty of genocide, enslavement, and crimes against sentient life. He was sentenced to imprisonment for the rest of his natural existence. The last image the galaxy saw of him was an old, broken Velthari being led away in chains, his proud head finally bowed. The Imperium was dissolved. Its territories were divided among the species it had once ruled. A new galactic concord was formed, with humanity as one of its founding members. The mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Every species would have a voice. Every world would have protection. Earth itself could not be healed. The damage was too great. But humans returned anyway. They built domed cities over the scars. They planted gardens in the ash. And at the center of what had once been Geneva, they constructed a memorial. It was a wall of black stone that stretched for miles. On it were carved 10 billion names, every single person who had died in the attack. It took 50 years to complete. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see it, to touch it, to remember. 30 years after the massacre, Admiral Helena Vance returned to Earth for the last time. She was 90 years old now, her body frail but her mind still sharp. She walked slowly through the memorial, supported by her grandchildren, 3 young people she had never expected to have. A young alien approached her, a Kethari male with curious compound eyes. He recognized her from the history files. "You are the Admiral," he said. "The one who could have destroyed them all but chose not to." Vance looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned to gaze at the wall of names, at the crowds of humans and aliens gathered to pay their respects. "They wanted the galaxy to watch us die," she said quietly. "They thought our story would be a warning. What happens to those who defy the Imperium? They were wrong." She touched the wall gently, her fingers tracing names she had memorized decades ago. Thomas, Emma, Sophie. The galaxy did watch. They watched us fall. They watched us hide. They watched us rebuild. They watched us return. And they watched us choose mercy when we could have chosen destruction. The Kethari nodded slowly. "My people tell stories of that day, when human soldiers freed us from the mines, when your medics treated our wounded. We did not believe aliens could show such kindness. You changed what we thought was possible." Vance smiled. It was a soft smile, full of old pain and hard-won peace. "That is what they never understood about us," she said. "They measured strength by how much you could destroy. We measure it by how much you can build, by what you choose to become when you have the power to become anything." She looked up at the sky, where ships from 100 worlds passed overhead. Humans and aliens lived together now, worked together, built together. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better than it had been. And humanity had helped make it so. "They wanted the galaxy to watch us die," she repeated. "Instead, the galaxy watched us rise." That night, Admiral Helena Vance died peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by family and friends. The entire galaxy mourned. Leaders from every species sent messages of condolence. She was given a hero's funeral, her ashes scattered among the stars she had fought so hard to protect. And on her memorial, beneath her name and dates, they carved simple words that would be remembered for 1,000 years. She taught the galaxy what strength truly means. The stars continued to shine. Ships continued to fly. Species that had once been enemies now worked side by side. And across 1,000 worlds, children grew up hearing the story of humanity, the species that was nearly destroyed, that hid in the darkness, that returned with fire and fury, and that chose mercy in the moment of ultimate victory. The galaxy had watched, and the galaxy would never forget.